Well, welcome back to Scotch and Scripture. My name's Rob. Thanks for watching. Today we're doing the Laphroaig 10 Sherry Oak. At the start of a new year, we're saying new year, new you, or something like that. Scotch and Scripture. Well, welcome back, and if you're one of my new subscribers, thank you very much. Welcome to the channel. Hope that you are doing well. So today we're looking at the Laphroaig 10 Sherry Oak. It's a real favourite of mine, and actually it was a gift given to me after a Christmas service that we did at my church. We've got some people that come up from pretty far away in Alabama to come up to the church every now and then and visit, and they also watch the channel. And during my 31 Days of Proverbs series that I just did, which is also, by the way, the reason why I haven't put a video up yet this year, and this is the first one. It was just so much, and there's only so much time in life to make videos. Well, you're doing other things like, you know, family and church and life and job and Christmas. But anyway, during one of those videos I mentioned the Laphroaig 10 Sherry Oak, and also how it was one of my favourites and it was really hard to find. And these amazing people went out and sourced it in Alabama, of all places, managed to find a bottle of it and brought it to me as a surprise gift after the Christmas service, which was really fantastic. So this episode is dedicated to my friends from Alabama. You know who you are. And so yeah, this is the Laphroaig 10 Sherry Oak. I love the Laphroaig 10. I love everything about Laphroaig pretty much, but this is just, I haven't had it in a couple of years. And so, but before we get into it, I'm also introducing a new section in the channel, and it's called Pop Charts. And that is because I'm reading the book by Charles MacLean right now, the Wikipedia, and he says in one of his notes, there is also the undeniable sensory pleasure of cracking open or drawing the cork of a new bottle. He's talking about the overall experience of Scotch, and I couldn't agree more. And if it's good enough for Charles MacLean, it's good enough for me and for you. And by the way, you can buy this book at the link in the description under the video. So, oh, that's kind of disappointing actually. Alright, well, I'll tell you what, since it's a new section, I'm going to put it just at number 5, because that was not nearly as good as I thought it was going to be. So here we go. Laphroaig 10 Sherry Oak. Coming in at number 5. Let's see what the rest of them do over the course of this year. That kind of backfired. Anyway, so straight away with this bottle, it's not just the aroma, but you can see the sherry influence. It's really obvious. Kind of rusted brown, deep red colour. Really beautiful colour actually. So what's really interesting about this one is that you've got all the goodness of the Laphroaig 10. So you've got the medicinal note, you've got the smoke, peat, you've got that nice sweetness on top, you've got that kind of umami. It's almost like a watery smell. I don't know if that resonates, but I've always thought that about Laphroaig, since the water in the reservoir next to Laphroaig is such an important part of that distillery's unique offering. I always think you can kind of taste the water in Laphroaig. I don't know if you agree. But so you get all the regular Laphroaig 10 notes in there, and then just on top, there's this amazing, gorgeous sweetness, this sherry. It's almost like a maple syrup. You get like a barbecue, but a sweet barbecue, that kind of charred oak. And it's all just made that much sweeter by this sherry oak finish. It's finished in Oloroso sherry oak casks. And you even get just a hint of coffee. So I'm excited to taste it. I did have the neck pour a couple of weeks ago at Christmas time, but it was a neck pour, and I'm starting to believe that the neck pour actually is not that good. I don't know why that is, so I'm going to look into that. Anyway, 10 seconds on the palate for 10 years in a barrel, Slangeva. So you still get that trademark Laphroaig kind of rush of peated smoke right kind of as it comes up the sides of your throat there on the finish. And it's unmistakably Laphroaig. You've got all those pieces that you know and love or hate, but then you just get this reassuring warmth that's similar to any sherry bomb whiskey that you might find. A lot of Speysides that are really heavily sherried. It's got that influence, but it just seems to be this side of sweetness, and it's more of like a warmth, like a rounded warmth. It's like a sensation almost more than a taste, although the taste is really lovely. It's just a really, really well done, really well balanced, kind of refined expression, and I think it's fantastic. I love this twist on the Laphroaig 10. I love the Laphroaig 10 so much, but I think this might be, and this is a big statement incoming, I think this might be my favourite expression of Laphroaig. So there. Yeah, and on the finish you just get that kind of lovely smouldering peat and a lovely balance of that sherried finish coming through. It's just fantastic. If you like Laphroaig 10 and you can find a bottle of this and you have friends in Alabama that like you and want to buy a present, then this might be a good time for you to try and get it. If you're nowhere near Alabama, hopefully you can still find it somewhere. I think it's worth it. I really do. I think you're going to probably pay around about $70 to $75, maybe $80, obviously in Islay. But it's a little bit. It seems like almost an outlier because it's got that lovely sherry sweetness, and you don't normally associate that with an Islay. Just really fantastic, really excellent whiskey. Can't recommend it highly enough. The Laphroaig 10 Sherry Oak. I've only ever been successful with 2 New Year's resolutions. I remember as a kid, I don't know why, but I stopped taking sugar in my tea, which when you're from the west of Scotland, that's like a big deal. So I stopped taking sugar in my tea, and I've never since ever had sugar in my tea. So I don't know, that's been like 30 years, 40 years maybe. And then I remember just after I turned 30, I remember deciding that it was kind of ridiculous that I didn't know how to play piano since I'd been a musician, songwriter and whatnot for so long. So that was a resolution, and I taught myself how to play piano. So that's 2 resolutions I've ever kept. And I don't actually think they're kind of worth the paper they're written on unless you actually write them down on a bit of paper. I saw Daniel Whittington say that a goal not written down is just a hope. I think there's a lot of wisdom to that. If you write down a goal, then you've got a much higher chance of actually achieving it if you can look at it and go like, oh, where's my progress here? So a resolution is dead similar to that. And I think the mindset of a New Year's resolution is just that thing of you're trying to get better at something, or you're trying to make sure that you don't get worse at it. And maybe a New Year's resolution is fed ultimately by fear, maybe it's fed by frustration, but whatever the starting point is, if there's something that you feel like you need to either get better at or you need to like stop in your life, New Year is a good time to do that. I mean, it's a fresh start. You'll feel better if you do it, but it's not the only time to start a thing. And maybe you're watching this and it's not New Year and you're like, well, what about now? Is July good? Yeah, July's good. I've said this before, that frustration can be a good thing. And somebody came at me and said, well, Paul said he'd learned the secret to be content in every circumstance. Contentment in that context is more about possessions. It's more about your wealth and your worth and kind of what you have, and not kind of exercising that thing about having jealousy and being envious. Frustration is much more about, I'm in a spot that I'm not happy with. I need to do something to get to a different place. And I think sometimes people almost weaponize that thing about contentment and take it out of context, because frustration can be a good thing. Most of the inventions that have ever happened in the world and have changed the world have been born out of frustration and out of, annoyance, or out of a problem that needed to be solved. There's nothing wrong with being frustrated as long as you don't stay in that place of frustration. And that thing about contentment too, like there is an element of that where that becomes unbiblical, I think. I mean, if you are saying, oh, well, I've learned how to be content in every situation, but the situation you're in is that you're a grown man and you like to sit and play Xbox all day instead of attend to your wife or your children, that you might be content, but your contentment is causing other people a problem. So that's not biblical contentment by any means. And you would think that maybe you'd have the sense to see that and go, well, obviously I'm in sin, but I think a lot of people do kind of weaponize that verse, go, well, I've learned to be content. I don't need to have millions of dollars. I don't need to be wealthy or whatever. I can just do this. But your contentment might be causing somebody else an issue, and that in itself is not a good, that's definitely not biblical. There's an element of Mary Poppins to this whiskey. There's that iodine medicinal thing mixed with this lovely brown sugar. There is literally a spoonful of sugar helping the medicine go down here, and it's wonderful. But frustration, I think, can be a good thing, especially if the frustration that you're sensing is actually coming as a direction and a directive from God for your life. Often, I think, when we find ourselves in a spot where we're frustrated and we recognize that we need to do something to make things better, that is the direction of God in your life. And sometimes you hear it from other people. But God can definitely use frustration to get your attention and get you to focus in and refocus on what He wants for your life. That's definitely happened to me. I don't care what anybody says, that has definitely happened to me. I'm happy to stick my neck out and say that I have been driven by frustration, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You just can't stay in that place. Anyway, here's the point. I remember reading this particular Bible verse maybe when I was about 18 or 19, and it stuck with me my whole life, and I've forgotten it at times, and then when I've remembered it I thought, oh yeah, okay. And it's in Ecclesiastes chapter 11 verse 4. If you wait for perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done. So a lot of people think the new year is the perfect time to start and do something. The problem with that is if you think the new year is the perfect time to start a resolution or change your life or start a business or get serious about weight loss or whatever it might be, that's cool, unless it's April and you're like, well, I'm just going to wait till the new year. Or if you do have an idea for something you want to do creatively, a business or whatever it might be, and you're just sitting going, well, it's not the right time. It's like, dude, there's never going to be a right time. The right time is now. Like, if you wait for perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done. And that's so true. And there's been a lot of people who've just never done anything with their life because they've been waiting and waiting and waiting for that magic moment. And that magic moment doesn't come. There's a really good book called The War of Art. I can't remember the guy who wrote it. Before I signed my first publishing deal as a songwriter, I remember reading that because I was struggling a little bit with procrastination and like just not really doing the work I needed to do. And this guy says, especially for creatives, basically you just have to show up every day and do the work. So this guy's whole premise basically boiled down to this. He would work between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and he'd just sit down at his typewriter, computer I guess, and he'd just write out this story that he was writing, whatever he was working on. He'd just work on the script or the screenplay or whatever it was, and he'd just keep going. He'd make himself do it, and by his own admission he'd say the first couple of hours was probably just nonsense. He'd just throw it away, but eventually by doing the work the inspiration would actually come, because work and activity generate inspiration. Inspiration is basically never generated by sitting around and waiting. It just doesn't work that way. So for creative people, when they say, well, I'm just not feeling very inspired today, I don't feel like writing today, or blah 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 blah, I'm waiting for inspiration. You could wait a lifetime for inspiration. Those moments are few and far between. What you need to do instead is just get cracking, get on with it, and make yourself do the work. Ecclesiastes says it best: if you wait for perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done. Same thing with resolutions. Don't wait, just do it. But if you know that you need to change something about your life, or there's something you've always wanted to do, and you're just saying, I'm just going to wait. Why? Could be dead tomorrow. Sorry. But you could. We're not promised tomorrow. What are you waiting for? Just do it. So if you're procrastinating, it might just be fear, could be laziness, if you're being honest, could be frustration, or it could be that you just don't really know how to do it. There's not anything I've ever achieved that I started out really knowing what to do or how to do it. I've just kind of done it, and you learn as you go, and it's the best way to do it. Don't despise small beginnings, just go for it. So yeah, anyway, I hope this is the best. I sincerely hope this is the best year of your life. In the words of Brian Houston, the best is yet to come. But I do believe that. You just have to kind of go out there and go, right, I'm going to go do something now. I'm just going to get cracking with it. I'm going to start and I'm going to make it happen. Now, obviously, you have to line that up with what you feel like God's will is for your life. I'm assuming you're doing that anyway. Don't think too long. Just crack on. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. It's really going to help. And I hope that if you are in a place where you're thinking about something, I hope that maybe this is the gentle push over the cliff that you needed. I certainly hope so. Just make sure you wear a parachute. And get yourself a bottle, if you can find it, of Laphroaig 10 Sherry Oak, because it's dynamite. It's fantastic. Yep, it did disappoint a little bit on the old cork opening thing. Kind of a failure to launch with that, but we're going to keep going because I think this is a good concept, and even if it's just for my own amusement. But if you do get it, you'll enjoy it. It's a wonderful, wonderful expression of Laphroaig. Like I said, it might just be my favourite. Maybe. The lore's up there looking at me, so maybe not. Anyway, God bless you, Slán and I'll see you next time.